Alright. Doing a stereo installation on my bike. So 06 Road King. I had a stereo on it from Rumble speakers. I didn't like the way it sounded. The amps ended up burning up 2 years after I bought them. It's really a crappy made system. I would never spend the money on them again. The only thing I'm using from that system will be the pre-existing speaker pods, which really are only headlight assemblies. They're off-road assemblies or bike auxiliary assemblies. That headlight assembly is the same as this, painted black. So you can buy a set of those. They're a little different than these. The wire don't go through the bottom like Harley, but it does go through the side for $30 online. And you can take the lights out and use the speakers in those. They're 4-inch speakers with the corners cut off. You can see them right here, down here, and right here. What I did is I went online, eBay. I found this little radio, little FM radio. Has a clock. Has a headphone jack and an auxiliary jack. That auxiliary jack is supposed to be made so you can plug like an MP3 player into it. I haven't tried that out yet. I'm going to later. I also, in the process of this, I took the whole front assembly off this bike, as you can see right here. Headlight assembly, everything. Then I also removed the tank. I did this so I could get to the wiring harness on the bike. I wanted to make it so I could actually run the wires through that harness and make it look a lot cleaner than it did before by trying to run it through the headlight bezel by itself. It was too hard. Now, not only did I buy the radio on eBay, I also bought a little amplifier, as you can see right here. A little 500 watt amp, it says. It's not that powerful, I'm sure, but it does work quite well. To install this, it had two grounds similar to these. It had this one and another one next to it. I took and cut that ground off and ground it smooth, and then drilled two holes into the bike framing at the bottom, and then drilled two small holes in the amp. I took the amp apart to make sure it wouldn't hit anything. I drilled two small holes, and I used two screws to hold the amp in place. As you can see right here, these two screws right here. I then took it through and I hooked RCA cables, probably can't see them down in there, to the amplifier. I ran those and stripped them on one end because this little radio doesn't come with RCA outputs. Wasn't a problem. All I did to that was take it, you can see right here I got it wound up, and I wired them into the speaker outs of this unit. And then ran to the amp, so it made basically my amp without an input crossover, which worked out quite well. I grounded the amp off the ground here. I ran the and I took the positive. Now I ran the positive to the ignition switch on the right hand side, which is the power on when the ignition's on. So the amp's only powered when the ignition's on. It's not powered when it's off. I ran the speaker wires to this amp up the wiring loom along the sides, and I ran them up to here. I haven't ran to the handlebars yet. I don't have the pods on. That'll be in a later video. Now, what you want to do is make sure that you have every connection taped properly, no shorting that way. And I was really amazed at how well this little radio sounded. The radio is powered to a wire on the headlight, so it's only on when the ignition's on, but it has the orange wire on the radio, which is memory, which is ran to a hot all times. I ran that wire to the hot wire of the ignition. The center wire, which is on, is powered whenever the battery's hooked up. Down in here, I cut the loom, then I put it back in, taped it, soldered all my connections, put it all back together. This radio is mounted to this piece, this chrome piece right here. I took this off. The radio comes with two brackets, or actually a set of brackets. I have those over here someplace. I'll show you two of them. Show them to you if I can find them. They're here, yes, right here. Very good. Don't mind my garage, it's a little bit of a mess right now. Winter time and all. These brackets are what came on the radio. They look good. They're made so they can go in a handlebar riser. They're slotted for a handlebar riser. but they do come off the back with 2 little screws. As you can see the pattern right there. I took that bracket and laid it on to the chrome piece here. Marked out the holes and drilled those. And I also marked out a center hole for the wiring to go through and drilled that. I also, after that point, took and siliconed all this in. Screws and all, that way they couldn't back themselves out just in case. You could use Loctite if you want, but I figured silicone and the heads would work just as fine, just as well. This real radio comes with a little yellow wire that you can hook an antenna into. So what I did, these aren't the Harley-Davidson stock brackets, obviously. These are ones I made myself, and I worked in a steel shop. They're out of stainless. But you could take the bracket you have from Harley for the saddlebags, if you have them, and drill a hole in the center. They're the same shape. I just made new ones out of stainless. I drilled a 7/8 hole in this, ran it. It's a little rubber antenna. It's an AutoZone $10 antenna. Took the wire and ran it up the side, and I took this little plate off. And I ran the wire right down here, through here, underneath this bracketing, and up through the loom. I then connected it into the yellow wire, which I had to extend with the blue wire, with the speaker connector that came with this radio slid right over the end of the antenna end to power it, to give it its direction. I soldered that together as well. Every connection on this bike for the radio has been soldered. Nothing is crimped. Now, the speakers themselves are not hooked up in their pods at the time, but they do sound fairly decent. They'll sound better when the pod is in there. They won't vibrate as much. I had to turn the amp down quite a bit, but as you can see, here actually, that's on 2. A little bit of distortion, but they're not past anything yet. They'll sound better when they're inside their pods where they're supposed to be. I'll do a video of that when I get that done. Shut it off. Take the ignition switch, I'll turn that off. And for right now, that's all I got done in this thing. I'll do another video later to bring you all up to date on the rest of this. And we'll get the tank and stuff back on. We'll have a stereo system on the bike. Thank you. Bye.